Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So this is session 5 of the pastime of Gajendra. We have been discussing over last few days on this pastime of Gajendra. On the first day, we had a brief discussion on the point of discussion on day 1 was the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, very specifically the Dharma Projita Kaitavotra Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam Shloka. And on the second day, we had a discussion on the 10 subject matters of the Srimad Bhagavatam, corresponding to each canto, and very specific focus on the 8th canto. And on the third session, we tried to elaborate on the same train of thought, and we discussed about what the Manvantaras are and who was Manu, Swayambhuva Manu, and then who was the second Manu and the third Manu and the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and the present Vaivaswata, 7th Manu, with the 6th being Chakshusha Manvantara. So we discussed about how Priyavrata Maharaj's sons took over the position of Manu. And more importantly, we discussed about, we briefly touched on the topic of what were the different incarnations during the different Manvantaras. So that is when, during the mention of the 4th Manvantara, Shukadev Goswami says, in the 4th Manvantara, Hari appeared from the womb of Harini and Hari Medha. And that Hari saved an elephant by the name Gajendra from the jaws of a crocodile. So that's the point where Parikshit Maharaj comes up with the inquiry. So that was our third session. Yesterday in the 4th session, we continued our discussion on Parikshit Maharaj's inquiry and Shukadev Goswami's position as the ideal speaker of the Srimad, Suta Goswami's position as the ideal speaker of the Srimad Bhagavatam, along with Parikshit Maharaj and Shaunakadi Rishi's position as the ideal listener. So we listed different qualities of the ideal speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam and different qualities of the ideal listener of Srimad Bhagavatam, going back and forth with Sanskrit references, how we can inculcate those principles, first to become an ideal listener, to be an ideal disciple, and then Krishna will empower different jivas as via medium to spread his message. So that was the point where we left off yesterday. And we also mentioned towards the end of session 4, how there is a detailed description of the scene, the pastime scene of Trikuta, very specifically because that is the place where the Supreme Lord appeared as a result of Gajendra's helpless calling. So the place where a pure devotee calls out to Krishna is a dham, is a pastime place. In the section of Jada Bharat, it is described that there are 3 chapters given to the Supreme Lord in the form of Rishabdev Maharaj, and there are 8 chapters given to his son Bharat Maharaj. So at that time, Srila Sridhar Swami comments in his Sanskrit Bhavartha Deepika commentary that the Upakhyan, this whole episode of Bharat Maharaj, Srila Sridhar Swami comments that this is Amrita Upakhyan, which means that it is nectarian and it can make one immortal by giving entrance into the kingdom of reality. So it's interesting that the Supreme Lord as Rishabdev Maharaj is given less chapters, and Bharat Maharaj as the son is given more chapters. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that this is very fruitful for the living entities to hear about the devotees of the Lord, because after all, they don't aspire to become God. They don't aspire to become Bhagavan, but they aspire to become selfless, pure-hearted devotees of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, it is very fruitful to hear about the lives and the calling and the movement of the devotional sentiments in their heart of pure devotees, so that by hearing about their pastime, there is an inspiration in the heart of the sadhaka that I also want to follow that path, and I also want to worship Sri Krishna with sincerity and with loving attachment. So similarly, Gajendra's pastime is also Amritmay Upakhyan. It is filled with instructions, and this episode is nectarian because this is the calling of a jiva's helpless surrender at the lotus feet of Sri Hari by taking shelter of the holy names. Actually, the holy names are our only shelter, and this is a reality. This is absolute reality. Krishna is like the Supreme Lord Sri Hari is like a kite, and he keeps flying in the sky. So externally, when we see the kite is moving up in the sky freely, so that is the independent nature of the kite-like Supreme Lord. But when we go deeper, we understand that every kite is controlled by a kite flyer through the string. So if the kite flyer lets off the string, then the kite flies on its own accord. But the stronger the kite flyer holds on to the string, then he can control the kite, which externally for a third person seems to move independently in the sky. That same kite, when we go closer or introspection, we understand that that kite is actually controlled by the kite flyer, with the string being the medium. So similarly, the kite is the Supreme Lord who seems to be very independent in the sky of reality, performing his free-flowing, opulent, yet sweet pastimes. But the kite flyer are his pure devotees. And the string connecting the kite flyer with the kite is the holy name. So the more the devotees hold on to the holy name of the Supreme Lord, the more they can control, they can let go, and they can pull in the kite. The Supreme Lord becomes completely subordinate, although he is completely independent. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that the Supreme Lord is Swatantra Ishwara Prabhu, Nahi Nivaran. He is completely Swatantra, which means the Supreme Lord is completely independent. So no one can tell him what to do. Yet at the same time, he is Ishwara, which means he tells everyone what to do. So no one can dictate terms with the Supreme Lord. He moves independently. And at the same time, he dictates terms to others. All the living beings work according to the dictation of the Supreme Lord. Ekale Ishwara Krishna Ara Sava Bhritya Yare Yaiche Nachayate Taise Kare Nritya. Chaitanya Charitamrita Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says that the Supreme Lord is the eternal master, and everyone in creation is the servant. And just like the master makes the servant dance, the servant dances. So all living beings are Ishwara Adhin. They are subordinate to the Supreme Lord. So the two qualities given for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita are Swatantra Ishwara Prabhu Nahi Nivaran. Although he is completely independent and no one can tell him anything, he also controls the jivas. So the jivas have to move according to the dictation of the Supreme Lord. Still, Bhaktagana Ichha Vinu Nahika Gaman. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he had to go to Vrindavan, he was taking permission from all his intimate associates. So Kaviraj Goswami says that Lord who is completely independent, he doesn't need an approval from anyone. And at the same time, everyone needs approval from him. That Supreme Lord, Bhaktagana Ichha Vinu, without the approval, without the desire of his pure devotees, na kare gaman, he will not walk a step. We see even in the pastime of Sakshi Gopal that the deity walked the way the deity first talked, spoke to the devotee, to the Brahmana, and then told the Brahmana that actually I cannot walk. This is too much you're asking for. You're actually wanting me to come all the way and give Sakshi, witness. No, that is not possible. I cannot walk in this deity form. So the Brahmana actually trapped the Supreme Lord by saying, if the deity can talk, the deity can as well walk. The Supreme Lord agreed. And Sakshi Gopal deity the pastime is very famous, where the Supreme Lord, although he is Ishwara, Swatantra Ishwara Prabhu, Nahika Nivaran, Bhakta Gana Ichha Vinona Kare Gaman. He is already independent and no one can go against his plan. Everyone aligns to his plan. Even in the Gita, Krishna says, Ye yatha mam prapadhyante tamstataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushaha partha sarvasha. That everyone has to walk my path. But still that Supreme Lord as Sakshi Gopal that Supreme Lord is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They walk behind the devotees who are pure-hearted. So similarly, here we find that Gajendra is the kite flyer and Vishnu, the Supreme Lord, is the kite. Although the Supreme Lord is completely independent, Vishnum, Jishnum, Mahavishnum, Prabhavishnum, Maheshwaram, Aneka Rupa Daityantam Namami Purushottamam. The Shastra describe with great detail how independent the Supreme Lord is and how all the demigods, they bow down at the lotus feet of Mahavishnu. Different planetary proprietors like Surya, like Indu, like Bhauma, Bhumi, Buddha, Vakpati, which means Jupiter, Guru, and Kavya Shauri, all the different planets. They are described in the Venkateshwara Suprabhatam also. Suryendu Bhauma, Buddha Vakpati Kavya Shauri. They are all bowing down at the Tvad Dasa Dasa, Ati Dasa, Tvad Dasa Dasa Charanau Ati Dasa Dasa. That my Lord, they are all becoming the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant at your lotus feet. But you are walking behind the lotus feet of your pure devotee. So Gajendra here in this pastime is like the kite flyer. And the Supreme Lord is the free-moving independent kite. But however, he's being controlled by the kite string of Gajendra's helpless call. So if someone cuts the string, then the kite will move independently and the person is not able to do anything to the kite. But the more one experiences practice in moving and using the kite, pulling the string closer and releasing the string closer. For those who have done kite flying on the terrace top on Makar Sankranti, you will know that it is an art and it needs practice. So similarly, chanting the holy name is actually a practice and it is an art. One has to be steadfast. One cannot be slackened if one wants to get the Supreme Lord. In fact, to survive in an army of a certain country, one has to be very steadfast. One has to be very disciplined. And only then you will survive. Even to be in a big corporation, to be in a multinational company, one has to be very disciplined. And one has to be very dedicated and steadfast in one's position. So similarly, what to speak of being in the army of Srila Prabhupada or in the army of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to fight on the other side, the enemy is the external energy of the Supreme Lord. So it is a very tough battle. So therefore, one needs very strict, regulated, disciplined, devoted practice of the chanting of the holy names. Therefore, Rupa Goswami, even when he talks about chanting the holy name in the Upadeshamrita, he says, Kintu adarad anudinam. One has to chant the holy name adarad, with respect, and anudinam, every day. These things are needed. In the process of chanting the holy name, one has to make sure that 5 things are necessary to have successful Nam Japa. The first thing is one should have a practice of chanting the holy name with Sambandha, which means constantly between the mantras telling the Supreme Lord, my Lord, I am yours, my Lord, I am yours. Apart from you, I have no one. My Lord, externally, I may be in the situation between my friends and my brother and my family and my relatives. But my Lord, apart from you, actually, I have no one. When I am at the junction of birth and death, which is called as Jivana Sandhi, when this body is about to be let go and the next body is about to be accepted, at that Jivana Sandhi, at that doorstep of exit from one circumstance and entry into another, my Lord, I realize the only one I will have is you. When I am in the womb of my mother, I have left my previous mother and I have not seen my present mother. At that time, my Lord, it's only you. So even now, it's only you, but I'm just forgetting that. Krishna, oh Gopinath, Hey Damodar, Hey Govinda, Hey Madhava, apart from you, I have no one. So first, even while chanting, one shouldn't be, again, these things, I am not some authority and I am not speaking out of my realization. I am simply like a parrot. I have heard this from senior devotees who have chanted the holy name close to 40-50 years in their life with increasing taste and relish. So they have spoken all this in their classes and they continue to inspire so many devotees to take shelter of the holy name. And I have simply heard and I'm simply repeating like a parrot like a male boy, mailman who's carrying the parcel. But I think it is very fruitful to share it, even if I have not realized. So the first thing is to chant with Sambandha Gyan, to constantly pray. Between the beads, one should keep chanting, Hey Krishna, O Radha and Krishna, Hey Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, apart from you I have nobody. Please make sure that in this life I am able to perform service to your satisfaction. Please don't make me perform a service that I would like to serve. Please do the best that you can through me in this form. Through thought, word and deed, this body is yours, my Lord. So please accept me, and whatever you want me to do through this birth, you please empower me. If you want me to be serving you in the kitchen, my Lord, in your happiness is my happiness. At the end of my life, I should bring in a smile at the lotus face of my Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And that will be by cultivation of daily practice. So my Lord, I'm not asking you for anything. You please empower me. My Lord, I am yours. I'm totally, now I have not realized, but at least through the Vani, at least through my tongue, I am intellectually, after analyzing my condition in this world, I am speaking, my Lord. These are all broken names that I'm offering you, but at least please accept them, my Lord. Please, you purify me. I cannot purify myself. All that I can do is keep chanting. So this is the first thing. The second thing is to be chanting without any ulterior desire. So first thing is to constantly chant with Sambandha Gyan. Second thing is to not ask anything from our chanting. To chant selflessly. Nirapeksham munim shantam nirvairam samadarshinaha anuvrajamyaham nityam puyayetyangri renubihi. The Supreme Lord has said that if anyone is selfless in their approach and doesn't use bhakti to fulfill their inner desires, then I walk behind them to collect the dust from their lotus feet. The Supreme Lord has said this in the Bhagavatam. So one should, ideally, the great souls describe that one should chant the holy name only for the pleasure of Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and took sannyas, and he would knock every door and he would say, Mukhe Hari Bol Bhai Ei Matra Bhiksha Chai. That I am a sannyasi and I'm supposed to beg alms at your doorstep. But please don't think I've come to beg the alms for food, clothing and shelter, or for some water and some grains. Mukhe Hari Bol Bhai. Oh brother, please chant the holy name. This is the only alms that I have come to beg. So in this mood, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would beg that the only alms that I am begging is you chant the holy name. So when we sit in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to chant, we can chant in this mood. Mahaprabhu, why do you, I cannot see you beg at my doorstep to make me chant the holy name. I am chanting the holy name to give pleasure to you, so that you will smile that I am chanting. Nityananda Prabhu has been described by Lochandas Thakur to be a golden mountain. Sonar parvate jaye dhulate lotaye. The golden mountain would roll in the dust, begging everyone to chant the holy name. So Nitai, I don't want you to beg, falling at the doorstep of Kali Yuga Jivas. Mahaprabhu, I don't want you to knock at the doorstep of everyone, begging everyone to chant the holy name. Therefore, to give pleasure to you, you want everyone to chant, therefore I'm chanting. I don't want anything. I am not chanting to keep the word to my spiritual master. I am not chanting because if I don't chant, I will get sin being initiated. I am not chanting to purify my heart. I am not chanting because by this chanting, I want to protect my son or my husband or my wife or my daughter, or by this chanting, etc., etc. There could be tamasic reasons, rajasic reasons and sattvic reasons, but ideally chanting is done for the pleasure of Krishna. Radharani is happy when Krishna's names are chanted. Krishna is happy when Radharani's names are chanted. In the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, Hare is Hara, that is Radharani. By chanting Radharani's name, Krishna will have a smile. By saying Krishna or Rama, which are the names of Krishna, Radharani will have a smile. Therefore, by chanting the names of Radha and Krishna, so that they should have a smile that their eternal servant is giving them happiness. Bas, this is the only reason why I'm chanting. I don't want to chant to get something higher than chanting, because there is nothing higher than chanting. Those who think that by chanting the holy name, The reason we are chanting the holy name is to see the Lord. That is correct, but not complete, because those who have seen the Lord also, they continue to chant. Radharani is constantly chanting the names of Krishna, Prabodhananda Saraswati explains. And Krishna is constantly chanting the names of Radharani. That also Prabodhananda Saraswati has explained. And when they come together as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is also constantly chanting. So those who have darshan of the divine couple, they are also chanting, which means chanting the holy name is higher than even having darshan of Radha and Krishna. This is the highest reality. And we should be grateful that that great fortune of getting something higher than the darshan of the Lord has been gifted in this human form by the mercy of Sri Guru. So therefore, nirapeksham. We don't want to chant to get something out of our chanting. We want to chant to give pleasure to Radha and Krishna. So this is the second thing. First thing is to chant with sambandha. Second thing is to chant in a nirapeksha bhav. The third thing is to keep our chanting confidential. How many rounds we are chanting, that bhajan must be kept very confidential. We should try to chant more, but always when people are asking, we should say, oh, I'm not able to chant much. That is a very matured, realized method to protect one's bhajan. Our Narottam Das Thakur in Prem Bhakti Chandrika has said, Apanara bhajanera katha na kaho yatha tatha. That one should not walk on the street telling about one's bhajan, one's inner cultivation of sadhana, one's calling out in the heart, on the street telling everyone for some adoration, etc. However, when others are doing that, we should think that, oh, they are so merciful and they are so kind that ideally they should protect their bhajan. But to inspire me to chant more, they are revealing their bhajan so that I can get some inspiration. We should not use these principles to judge others. But when others are saying about their bhajan, we should immediately think, oh, so wonderful, so kind. Instead of hiding their bhajan, they are revealing their bhajan so that my bhajan will increase. So merciful. But however, we should think, oh, I am not qualified. My chanting is not going good. One should keep one's bhajan, one's chanting like keeping the camphor, or let's say in colloquial usage, naphthalene balls, which are used to keep the closet and everything, in a materialistic life. Ideally, in spiritual life, we don't use all that. We have positive, sattvic substitutes. But generally in city life, we see naphthalene balls are kept inside closets and inside shelves so that they don't stink. But these naphthalene balls, if they're kept in open, there will be sublimation. They'll be finished. But when they're kept in seclusion, in a confidential way, then they bring in their true color. So similarly, one's bhajan should be kept very confidential. In fact, there are so many devotees in Vrindavan. There is specifically one sadhu that I'm aware of. He lives at Govardhan and he is a Nimbarki sadhu. He is a sadhu in the Nimbarka Sampradaya, in the Kumara Sampradaya. And what he does is, he does Vrindavan Parikrama, he does Govardhan Parikrama at night. He's called as Mauni Baba. And one very special god brother of mine always speaks about him to me. So then through him, I got to know about this very wonderful soul. So his bhajan is such that he does Govardhan Parikrama 3 times. He does Govardhan Parikrama every day 3 times. And he's been doing this for a long time. So he starts each Govardhan Parikrama roughly for us may take about, for a healthy person, it may take about 6 hours. But for those who have practiced, who have been doing this as their life and soul, they can do even in 4 hours. So that great soul, he starts his Govardhan Parikrama at around 6 o'clock in the evening, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the evening, once it starts to get dark. And he does 1, 2, 3 straight. So 12 hours of walking. And he's chanting also continuously. So he chants more than 2 lakh every day, more than 128 rounds as he's doing Govardhan Parikrama. But the interesting thing is, he does this from around 6 o'clock in the evening to 6 o'clock in the morning. And he comes back and then he's sleeping. From 6 o'clock, he's sleeping up to, a few hours later. So people who wake up early in the morning, they're looking at him and he's sleeping. And sometimes they don't even know the power of his bhajan. And he wakes up and he says, look at me, I'm sleeping till 10 o'clock. There's no bhajan, I'm not able to do anything. I've become a renunciant, but it is all failing. So people literally think that he's having no bhajan. But they don't know that Yanisha Sarva Bhutani. That when the when the materialistic person sleeps, the transcendental wakes up. But here, when transcendental are waking up, the Parat Paraha, he who's transcendental to transcendence, he is able to even transcendentally keep his bhajan confidential. So whoever goes to him, he says, oh, I'm not able to do any bhajan, look, I'm not able to chant, etc., etc. But then later people realize that this person is actually doing so much bhajan. When everyone is sleeping, he's walking around Giriraj and he's in isolation completely, and he's chanting like that. So there are people who keep their bhajan secluded. There is another great soul in the Dham who sits and chants japa in one place for close to 16 hours on one asan every day. 16 hours he's sitting. And when people come, many times, his eyes are filled with tears. When he opens his eyes, it's like divine light after 16 hours of one pointed bhajan. But then he will always keep complaining to whoever comes. He says, oh, look at me, I'm sleeping, sitting in one place, I'm not able to focus. All of you are doing so much bhajan, please bless me, please pray for me. So this is the actual standard of greatness. Initially one has to protect and not put it out in public. And then later, as the bhajan fructifies, naturally our humility will make us protect. And then Krishna's glory is such that he brings the glory of such hidden glorious persons out in public, because he wants to use them as via medium, transparent via medium, to propagate his glories. So this is the third point. One should keep one's bhajan very confidential. The fourth thing is, while chanting, one should try to remember the Supreme Lord. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, japa is not lip deep, but heart deep. So one should go deeper in one's bhajan by calling out with one's heart. And for that, one can have picture in front of us. Many devotees have the picture of their spiritual master with Gaur Nitai and Krishna Balaram or Radhesham or Jagannath, whoever their Ishtadev, their Prananath is. They keep an altar, a little one, while they're chanting, a little picture. And then they keep chanting japa, and time and again they open their eyes and it refocuses their attention back to their prananath, their ishtadev, and with this they are chanting. So the heart smarana goes on. For those who are not doing that, this is one thing. Also, there are others. What they do is, while chanting japa, they chant in front of their deities. So instead of having pictures, they are having their deities at home. So they're sitting and chanting in front of their deities. So the mind, even if it fluctuates, you bring it back to your Thakurji. Others go to the temple and they sit and chant in front of Thakurji, in front of Krishna Balaram or Gaur Nitai, and they sit and chant in front of Krishna. So that is another way to bring in smarana, to bring the naam with the roop. Even His Holiness Sachinandan Swami Maharaj in his japa workshops stresses on this point, that chanting is not a mechanical movement or a fast murmur of something. It is actually putting our heart in a prayerful way to a certain form of the Lord. That is very important. We can, for those who have specific attraction towards a certain deity, ISKCON has so many temples. This morning, actually, I was contemplating on this fact that Prabhupada has done such a great service to mankind that mankind can never repay. Every city you go, the jivas in that city have a specific temple, and they have 3 deities on that altar. And they can meditate on those forms. And thanks to Kali Maharaj, that we have internet and we have technology, now we can not just take darshan of 3 altars on our temple in the city, but sometimes you have multiple temples in the same city, or you have darshan of different cities online. So we can download those pictures on our desktop or our phone. And then we have these phones also, which are so big these days, so we can have those display picture or screen lock, whatever you call it. What is it, lock screen or whatever you call it. I don't know much about all this, but you can keep those pictures. And while chanting those deities, that specific deity every day, so we can have a deep sambandha with that deity as we are chanting. Sachinandan Swami Maharaj says that Smaranam is very important. Also, other means that we can employ is that while chanting japa, we can do mantrartha chintana. Mantrartha chintana means, as Prabhupada taught us, O Radharani, O Shri Krishna, please engage me in your service. This prayer. Today, how may I serve you? Kinkara, a servant is called Kinkara. Kinkara means Kim Karomi. What am I supposed to do for you today? Like that. So that is a Kinkara, a Dasa. What is the use of a servant without service? So in that way, chanting can be done with Smaranam. Also, another means to chant and do Smaranam is recite verses in the middle. Like Baraha Pidam Natavara Vapuhu Karanayoho Karanikaram Bhiprat Vasah Kanaka Kapisham Vaijayantim Chamalam Randhran Venuhu Adhara Sudhaya Purayan Gopa Vrindaihi Vrindaranyam Swapadaramanam Pravishad Gita Kirtihi. So in this way, as in the middle, if our mind is getting fluctuated, we can just chant this one beautiful verse. And as we are chanting, bring it back to the words of the verse. And then try to, on the not falsely imagine, but on the basis of what Shukadev Goswami has described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can try to remember our Krishna in Vrindavan and keep chanting and offer our service. So the mind is got back. So this is the fourth thing, to bring the smarana, the mind to the lotus feet. And the fifth and the most important thing is to chant as much as we can. Constant chanting. Nirantara naam lo kara tulasi sevan achirata pave tumi Krishna racharan. When the prostitute came to Haridas Thakur said you should constantly chant. So in our organization, the minimum is 16 rounds and following the 4 regulative principles. This is the minimum standard to be followed. But we want to rise above the minimum also, because Naam, the more we invest in Naam, ye yatham mam prapadyante. The more we invest time with Krishna, more Krishna invests time with us. The more we try to serve Krishna's holy name, the more Krishna tries to empower us and use us in his service. So for example, if out of 100, the baseline to pass a test is 40, and the parents tell the child, that is the base. If you cross 40 points or 40 marks, then you succeed. You pass the test. But at the same time, when the child comes home, the parents ask, so is it, what grade did you get? Is it an A plus, or is it an A, or is it an A minus, or is it a B plus, B minus? So the higher the grade, the parents are happier. So if it is between 90 and 100 points, so then you probably get an A or A plus or whatever. So similarly, we want to not just meet the target of 16 rounds, we want to beat the target. It should be such that the day we are leaving this body, that day we should have finished our 16 minimum with all the pain in the body. As Haridas Thakur said, oh, I am diseased today because I have not finished my japa. So we should, like that, when we are healthy, and now when we are young and we have so much time and energy, we should invest in our bead bag. We should try to chant constantly. Our Krishnananda Prabhu, His Grace Krishnananda Prabhu, a very senior disciple of His Holiness Radhanath Swami Maharaj, he's always begging the devotees to increase the chanting. So Srila Radhanath Swami Maharaj, in one class, he said that this name Krishna Ananda is given because he has so much taste in the holy name of Krishna. He has Ananda chanting the holy name of Krishna. So in this way, Prabhu is always inspiring everyone to chant. He's always requesting everyone to increase their chanting. So in that way, we want to do that. We want to chant more. So these 5 things, constant chanting. So first we started off with chanting with Sambandha. Second, we spoke about chanting in a nirapeksha bhav, without any ulterior desires. The third thing that we mentioned as far as chanting is concerned was to keep our chanting confidential. The fourth was to bring the Naam and Roop together by having Smaranam. And the fifth is to chant constantly. Because Gajendra in his chanting had all these 5 ingredients. You see, he chanted with Sambandha. When we get to his prayers, we will see how Gajendra chanted that, my Lord, I am yours. It's interesting, the first half of his prayers, Gajendra calls out to the Supreme Lord saying that, please save me from the crocodile. But then as he's offering these prayers with desire, the desire to be saved from the crocodile gets washed off from his heart. So the first half of his prayer are in this mood to be free, but the second half are, my Lord, Please free me from this material existence. I am completely yours. Apart from you, I have nothing. Madrik prapanna pashupasha vimokshanaya muktaya bhuri karunaya namo layaya swamshena sarvatanubhrit manasi pratita pratyak drishe bhagavate brihate namaste. So these things we will discuss when we get into the prayers of Gajendra. So Gajendra did all these 5 things. He remembered the Supreme Lord and he kept his bhav very confidential, which the acharyas have pulled out, because he was chanting these prayers, but what was happening in his heart was very confidential. He was chanting constantly, this sambandha, and then he was having nirapeksha bhav. So because that land, that scene saw Gajendra's helpless calling, Gajendra, like the kite flyer, was constantly holding on to the thread of the holy name with these 5 attributes. Therefore, the kite of the Supreme Lord's independence was controlled, and that kite became dependent and controlled by the call, became subordinate to the call of Gajendra, and therefore the Supreme Lord appeared in this scene. And because Gajendra called out helplessly and the Supreme Lord appeared, that Trikuta mountain became a dham, although in the heavenly planets. So therefore Shukadev Goswami has described this place with great significance and elaboration. So let's start our discussion. For those who are joining us just now, please kindly open up Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 2, which is entitled as the Elephant Gajendra's Crisis, and we are reading from text 1. So let us study this section. So we see in the first verse onwards, we can move to the Sanskrit so that we can absorb what Shukadev Goswami is describing, because Shukadev Goswami is actually like a very careful, very detailed describer. You know, he's like a CCTV camera who doesn't miss anything, but he elaborates on points which are very important. Like Putana's pastime, also we see that Putana's form before liberation or deliverance and after deliverance, both are described to give us a contrast of how much hypocrisy was present in her form. So similarly, things which are very important are described. So I very sincerely, with obeisances, I beseech the devotees to kindly study this section from first verse to the 19th verse, and of course ahead also, but these are very important to remember the scene, because the Supreme Lord has promised anyone who remembers these descriptions, I will make them free from all reactions. So text 1, Sri Shukha Uvacha Asit Girivaro Rajam Trikuta iti Vishrutaha Kshira Udena Avritaha Shriman Yojana Ayutam Uchritaha. So translation, my dear king, there is a very large mountain called Trikuta. It is 10,000 yojanas, 80,000 miles high. Being surrounded by the ocean of milk, it is very beautifully situated. So different points to be noted here. First of all, Shukdev Goswami is calling he's not just saying the mountain as Giri, but he says Giri Vara. Vara means first class. Just like the Supreme Lord, who's the best among dancers, is called Nata Vara. Vara means first class. So Asit, which means there was in the past tense. Asit is past tense. However, because Shukdev Goswami is describing it in real time, Prabhupada translates it as there is. So this is very interesting to note. Prabhupada could have translated this as there was, although in the word to word Prabhupada has written Asit to be there was, but in the translation he writes there is. Because the point to be noted here is Prabhupada is understanding the heart of Shukadev Goswami, that he is not narrating this like a historian, but whichever Leela he narrates, he gets in to the Leela as if it is happening right now. So Asit Giri Vara, there is a very wonderful Giri mountain, first class, O Rajams, Trikuta iti Vishrutaha. We know the word Shruti means to hear. So Vishrutaha, V means Vishesha, it is very famously heard of mountain, which means it is very famous. People have heard of it at great detail. What is the name? Trikuta iti. So iti is added after a name has been pronounced. So Trikuta is the name. Just like we say Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin iti namine. So iti has been added after the name Bhakti Vedanta Swami. So similarly, Trikuta, that which has three peaks, this is the name. And Kshira Udena Avritaha Shriman. This mountain is covered, Avritaha. The word Avritaha means to cover. It has been completely covered. We see in Narottam Das Thakur's song, Vrindavana Ramya Sthana Divya Chintamani Dhama Ratana Mandira Manohara Avritam Kalindinire Rajahamsa Keli Kore Tare Shobhe Kanaka Kamala. So when Narottam Das Thakur describes Vrindavan, he says Avritam Kalindinire Rajahamsa Keli Kore, that the water of Yamuna has been filled with Rajahamsa, swans, and as they're playing. So the word Avrita means to cover something. Also, we note the word Anavrita, which means not to cover. We see Anya Bhilashita Shunyam Jnana Karma Adi Anavritam. That pure bhakti is that which is not covered by Jnana and Karma. So similarly here, word used is Avrita, which means covered. So this mountain, Trikuta, is covered, Avritaha, by Kshira Udena, by the milk ocean. And what is the nature of this whole scene? Shriman. We see the word Shriman we always use for respect, because the Shri, beauty, opulence, wealth in his heart is called Shriman for male, and Shrimati for female. So we always say Shriman so and so Prabhu, or Shrimati so and so Mataji, like that. Shrimati Radharani. So Shri means beauty. Janma Ishwarya Shruta Shribhi. Shri also means opulence. So this place is filled with beauty, scenic beauty, and it is very opulent. So every word of Srimad Bhagavatam is worth focusing on. Srimad Bhagavatam is such a beautiful text that the words open up themselves like boxes of realization. We don't need anything else. Over and above that, Prabhupada has given us word to word so that we don't miss that detailed study. So Kshira Udena Avritaha Shriman, this place is very beautiful, very opulent. And Yojana, now we know 1 Yojana is 8 miles. Ayutam, this word has been used in the past also. Ayuta basically means 10,000. So in Vilap Kusumanjali, our Raghunath Das Goswami has used this term, that when on the day of Bhratra Purnima or Raksha Purnima, Baladev Purnima, Radharani, who is with Jatila and Kutila in Yavat at her in-laws' home, Radharani's brother Sridham comes to take Radharani for Raksha Purnima back to Vrishabhanupur, which is Barsana, for 1 month. So she gets a break for 1 month. But Sridham knows that when he comes there to ask Jatila to take Radharani's hand back to her father, their father Vrishabhanu Maharaj, Jatila will say, oh, there is so much work here. Without Radharani, who is going to help me? Because Jatila is the mother-in-law. So she may have some hesitation. So Raghunath Das Goswami describes that Sridham would come with 10,000 cows. And he would tell Jatila, I am bringing all these cows as charity to you. Can now I take my sister in reciprocation? If I give these cows, will you let me take my sister for a month? And Jatila says yes, happily, because she gets her cows. So in that context, the word Ayutam has come in Shastra, meaning 10,000. So Yojana is 8, 1 Yojana is 8 miles. So 10,000 times 8 is 80,000 miles. Uchrutaha. Now we know in Hindi also the word Ucha means tall. So Asid Girivaro Rajan Strikuta iti Vishrutaha Kshira Udena Avrita Shriman yojanayutam uchritaha. So this place is the best among mountains, and its name is Trikuta. It is very famous, O king. It has been covered on all directions by the milk ocean, and at the same time, this is tall as wide. That you will see in the next verse, as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur also comments in his Sarartha Darshini Tika, that the breadth and the length of the mountain are the same. So it's not very tall with a thin base. The base is as wide as the length. So it's almost like the milk ocean is touching the feet of the mountain from all directions. This is interesting. The milk ocean is like at the base, at the feet of the mountain. And as we know, this is Trikuta. So there are 3 peaks which will come in the next verse, and their feet, this is so glorious that the milk ocean is drinking their charanamrit, is constantly with his waves gushing and washing the feet of this mountain. Now in text 2 and 3, we see Tavata Vistritah Paryak Tribhi Shringhai Payonidhim Disha Kham Rochayan Aste Rupya Yasa Hiranmayi Anyaischa Kakubha Sarva Ratna Dhatu Vichitritaihi Nana Drumalata Gulmaihi Nirghoshaihi Nirjara Ambhasam. So now the description goes even further. So Tavata, just like we say Yavat and Tavat. Yavat Kara, Tavat Kara Griham Griham, as Brahma also describes. So Tavat. So in this way, the description is continuing. So the word Tavata is the word used to continue the description between verse 1 and verse 2. So Vistritah, which means like Vistar, great elaboration. It is the length and the breadth on all sides has been described. And Tribihi, 3 means 3, like the English numeral. Ekaha, Dve, Trini, Chatvari, Pancha, Shat, Saptam, Ityadi in Sanskrit. So Tribihi means 3, the number 3. So Shringhaihi. Now when you talk about the word Shringhi in Shringa with respect to animals, that is actually the horns. So when you talk about the bull, you say Shringa, which means the horns. So here the mountains are having horns, which means Shringai means the peaks. That is the peaks that have been described. So how many are there? 3 There are 3. Around the Payonidhi. Paya means milk. Paya also means water also. But here specifically, Payas means milk. And Nidhi means ocean. So there is a very nice Sanskrit verse with respect to the word Paya. Shashina cha nisha nishaya cha shashi shashina nishaya cha vibhati nabha payasa kamalam kamalena payasa kamalena vibhati sarah. So it is, the poet is asking this question. Shashina cha nisha, is the night beautified by the moon, or nishaya cha shashi, or is the moon beautified by the night? This cannot be answered, but one thing can be answered. Shashina cha nisha nishaya cha shashi shashina nishaya cha vibhati nabaha. It's not sure whether the moon is beautifying the night or the night is beautifying the moon, but both of them coming together are beautifying the sky. Similarly, payasa kamalam, is the lotus looking beautiful because it is in a pond of water, or kamalena payaha, or is the water looking beautiful because it is having lotus? That cannot be answered, but one thing can be answered. Payasa kamalam kamalena payaha payasa kamalena vibhati saraha, that both of them come together to beautify the pond. So there the word payas or paya has been described to mean water, but here paya, payonidhi, payas means milk, and nidhi means an ocean. Like Prabodhananda Saraswati has written a book, Radha Rasa Sudha Nidhi. The Radharani, Rasa, mellows, Sudha, nectar, and Nidhi, ocean. So the nectarian ocean of the very sweet mellows of Radharani is glory. So this mountain peak, which is so detailed with its length and its breadth, from all sides, there is the ocean, and 3 Shringhaihi. It has 3 peaks, where Prabhupada writes in the translation what those three peaks are, which of course Shukdev Goswami also describes, that Rupya Yasa Hiranmayi. So three peaks are there. The first is the peak is made out of silver, the second is made out of iron, and the third is made out of gold. So Anyehi, there are other peaks also, but these are the main three ones, three main peaks. Very beautiful. And as these peaks are described, they are Rochayan Aste, Rochayan, like we know the word Rucha, Rocha, which means like Ruchi, to beautify. What are these peaks beautifying? Dishaha and Kham. So Disha, as we know, means directions, and Kham means outer space or sky. So the sky is looking beautiful because of these peaks. And all the directions, from all directions, you can see these peaks in the middle of the milk ocean. How beautifully Shukdev Goswami has described. And Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur here, very specifically, he describes that this mountain wouldn't have looked so beautiful if the base would have been longer and the peak would have been shorter, or the peak is longer and the base is shorter. But it looks very beautiful because the base and the length and the breadth are uniform. So Trivi Shringahi, they're so beautiful. Now going ahead, Shukdev Goswami continues the description in the third verse by saying, Annaishcha Kakubha Sarvaha, all the Anya, other peaks in all directions, how are they? Instead of individually describing what those peaks are made up of, Shukdev Goswami says they're all Ratna Dhatu Vichitrataihi. So Ratna, as we know, is jewels, and Dhatu is mineral. Like in Vrindavan it is described, Shamam Hiranya Paridhim Vanamalya Barha Dhatu Pravala Natavesha Anubratamse. The Dvija Patnis, Canto 10, chapter 23, text 22, the wives of the Brahmanas, when they glorify Krishna, they say, "Oh Krishna, your cheeks are decorated with natural minerals, dhatu, natural minerals." They take different minerals around in Vrindavan, and different cheek dots are made, different gopi dots are made, and so many designs on his body. So these peaks are vichitrataihi. They are very astonishing, very, very decorated, very beautiful. They are decorated with jewels and minerals. So we should not doubt this description because it is in the heavenly kingdom. Here itself, when we go to different opulent places, people go and take selfie because they have never seen it before. It's not a commonly found scene. Therefore, they are fascinated. What to speak of heaven? The description of heaven is astonishing. And then what to speak of Vaikuntha, and then what to speak of Krishna's abode. Therefore, Krishna says, once you come to that abode, it is so beautiful, yadgatva na nivartante. You will not come down again. But it is really sad that we run behind temporary beauty in this world. Just the skin is covered, just a covering. And then we are ready to, there are people ready to even go in jail for some temporary movement, fluctuation of their mind to enjoy that flesh. So this is third class beauty actually in this world. Whatever beauty is found in this world is very third class. It is very temporary. With time it deteriorates. But this beauty is so fascinating. The biggest beautiful scenic places of this world, whether it is Venice or whether it is Switzerland, they all fall short in comparison to this heavenly beauty. So Dhatu, Ratna Dhatu Vichitrataihi, these other peaks are filled with so many jewels, so many minerals. And at the same time, what is the natural decoration? Nana Drumalata Gulmaihi Nirgoshaihi Nirjaram Bhasam. For those who are just joining us on our Facebook broadcast, we are discussing Canto 8, Chapter 2, Text 3. So please run your way and jump on board so that we are all together. So Nana means different types, and Druma means trees, Lata means creepers, and Gulma means shrubs. So now the trees are described so that we don't think that the beauty comes just by jewels and ornaments. They are actually coming by the Supreme Lord's creation. How beautifully Krishna has created this world with so many different kinds of fruits and flowers, seasonal fruits. How loving Krishna is, that when it is hot, Krishna gives us fruits like watermelon, which is sweet and at the same time filled with so much water. Krishna gives us coconuts with inbuilt water to drink. Krishna is taking so much care of us. Krishna is giving us pomegranates which are filled with so many seeds. You throw them in the ground, they're all in different directions, and wherever they fall, now the pomegranate plant will come from there in the tree, and then they will give rise to so many pomegranate fruits, and each of them will have so many seeds. How Krishna is lovingly multiplying everything. So in this way, the natural beauty comes from the trees. So Druma means trees, and Lata means creepers. Therefore, Bhakti is called a Lata. Bhakti Lata Bij. Brahmande Brahmita Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. Bhakti has been described as a creeper. Why? Because the creeper always grows by taking help of a wall or a tree, wraps it around. Utkalika Vallari, as Rupa Goswami says. It's a creeper, it's a vine of devotion. Not W-I-N-E-V-I-N-E, vine. So therefore, Bhakti always moves as a creeper taking shelter of senior Vaishnavas. It is not an independent process like yoga, where we can sit on our own and it depends on our own progress. So here, Nana, different types of trees, and of course, ahead Shukdev Goswami will describe those trees. So Nana Drumalata Gulmaihi, different trees are found, different creepers and also shrubs. The word Gulma is interesting because Uddhava, when he comes to Vrindavan and he looks at the very fascinating depth of the love of the gopis of Vrindavan, he till now was thinking that he knows Krishna like no one else. But after coming there and looking at the love of the gopis, Uddhava had only one desire. Asam aho charana renu jusham ahamsyam Vrindavane kim api gulma latau shadhinam ya dustyajam swajanamarya patam chahitva bhejur mukunda padavim shrutimrigyameva. That Uddhava just wanted to become a gulma lata aushadi. He was ready to become a herb, a shrub, or a creeper, a blade of grass in Vrindavan, so that he can get the dust from the lotus feet of the gopis who are running helter-skelter in divine ecstatic loving separation from Krishna. So Uddhava went to Vrindavan for higher education, something that he didn't know, something that even his guru Brihaspati doesn't know, because it takes a Braj-rasik Vaishnav to know Braj-ras. So he came there for higher education. This is why in ISKCON we say Vrindavan Institute of Higher Education. Because Uddhava also came to Vrindavan in the institute of Radharani to have higher education. And he wanted to become the Gulma Lata in Vrindavan. So immediately as we are reading this, we should think, if the Druma Lata and Gulma in heaven is so beautiful, how beautiful will the Gulma Lata, the Druma Lata and Gulma in Vrindavan be? They are all demigods. Actually, one Acharya writes that in the month of Kartik, all the demigods enter the trees and the grass and the creepers of Vrindavan, so that 1 month of Kartik they can do Vrajvas. So that is just a few seconds in heaven, but they come down for a few seconds, spend the whole month of Kartik as trees for Akhand Vrajvas. So all these Druma, Lata, Gulma are very special. And at the same time, Nirghoshaihi Nirjara Ambasam. Ambas means water, and Nirjara, as we say in Hindi also, Jharjar Jharjar, which means waterfall. When some great soul is crying, like Mother Shachi is crying, or Mother Vishnu Priya Devi is crying. So it's always said, wo Jharjar Ganga Ashur rone lage, Bhagwan ke virah mein. So Nirjara here means waterfall, filled with water. And Nirghoshaihi, Ghosha, Ghoshna karna, sound. So Nirghoshaihi Nirjaram Bhasam. So this place, till now what we have described, is so beautiful that this is the best among mountains. Its name is Trikuta. It is covered with milk ocean on all sides. It is Shriman. It is very opulent and beautiful. It is 80,000 miles tall and wide. And at the same time, it is very elaborate in its ranges, because it has 3 prominent peaks made of silver, iron and gold, but it has many more other peaks, almost as if the milk ocean with its waves is coming to touch the feet of these peaks. And these peaks are so beautiful that they are increasing the beauty of the sky and the outer space. And at the same time, the other peaks are very special, filling up all directions, Although they are small, they're filled with jewels and minerals, and the natural beauty is in the form of trees, in the form of creepers, in the form of shrubs, grass, and natural trickling sound of the waterfall, giving so much peace and satisfaction in the hearts of the listener. So in this way, Shukdev Goswami has described the first 3 verses in the introduction of this scenic place. Tomorrow in our discussion, we will continue from here, and we will discuss from text 4 onwards to see what are the other aspects of the scenic beauty that has been described by Shukdev Goswami. But for now, it's time up, and it's really sad when the clock turns 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. But what to do? We have to respect so many devotees' time. Close to 145 devotees live at the moment, streaming in from different parts of the world, very specifically from North America. So I want to offer my gratitude to so many devotees amidst the coronavirus. Instead of being low in spirit, we are all jumping high as servants of Srila Prabhupada, unfolding pastime of Gajendra. So this was session 5, where we have just got into the description of the scene. We have many, many more sessions to go. So please don't drop out. This is going to be a fascinating ride. So please buckle up and let us join every single day on this Facebook Live broadcast. I want to thank His Grace Adi Gadadhar Prabhu for kindly going Facebook Live during these sessions, and so many other devotees on the WhatsApp group who are coordinating this discussion. So today is Wednesday night here in Atlanta, Georgia. Tomorrow is Thursday, and the day after tomorrow is Friday. So these 2 days, again, we will have session from 7 to 8 Eastern Standard Time. So please do join from wherever you're joining around the world. As far as the weekend is concerned, we will discuss the time shortly. So with that, let us all meditate on these verses and read the section ahead up to verse 19 and come for better preparation as our homework, so that we all can discuss and be in tune. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, ISKCON Guru Vrind ki jai, Anant Koti Bhakta Vrind ki jai, Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. If there has been any mistakes in my presentation, as far as philosophy is concerned, as far as anything is concerned, please kindly forgive me. I'm just trying to repeat. None of this is mine. I'm just trying to follow the path that Shukdev Goswami is giving through his texts. And if there has been anything that has inspired us on the path of Nam Bhajan and Bhakti, then this is the Mahaprasadam, Uchishta, remnants from the plate of our spiritual masters. We are simply relishing and distributing this Mahaprasad. So let us join in tomorrow, same time, same place, with more and more audience. Please inform your devotee friends and relatives so that we all can be together amidst the corona. We are under the shelter of Krishna's karuna. Hare Krishna.